Hey everyone, Ben here. Today I'm interviewing Dr. Karen Eilers and Christiaan Verwjis. Karen has a doctor's degree in business administration. She's also a lecturer, researcher, and consultant. Christiaan is an organizational psychologist, and together they're researching the topics of team effectiveness through the lens of an agile mindset. I have to admit, first I was a bit hesitant because of the squishy, buzzwordy nature of whatever mindset is. But that's exactly why I wanted to have them on the show. They look beyond the buzzwords through actual research. So if you're interested in the science behind the agile mindset, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Stellar Work episode. Hey Karen, hey Christiaan, so glad you're here.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, so glad we're here.
Likewise. Oh man, it's been a wild ride on LinkedIn, and we went back and forth, and you already sent me a bunch of stuff through your research, and I was really interested. So I'm really happy that you're on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It's great to be here and to be able to talk about research and make it actionable and practical. That's our goal for this
Yeah,
episode.
the word research really caught me because there's just so much on LinkedIn and on social media, right? That's not grounded in research. That's just straight out opinions that we blow out. And sometimes they're rooted in a certain context, and that might be helpful, but most of the time it just sounds good. And it's just a virtue signal. And so I'm really happy that you put in the work.
Yeah, a lot of big labeling and a lot of gut feeling how we try to improve the working environments. But often there is a lot of evidence and a lot of science behind. And I'm happy that we can share today some insights out of research for practice.
All right, then without further ado, let's jump into it. Maybe start with a quick introduction of who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Karen. I'm a business psychologist from my background, but I fell in love with agile software development during my PhD in information systems. And today I'm working as a business psychologist at a BSP, Business and Law School in Hamburg. And I'm doing a lot of research around what is happening with people working in a complex environment. So what is psychologically helping them to deal with this complexity, and what is this agile mindset, and how to create psychological safety and that stuff, and helping companies to use this knowledge to improve their work.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and I'm Christiaan Verwjis. I'm an organizational psychologist, so very similar to what Karen is doing. I have a background as a software engineer. That's actually how I started out, but I got more and more interested in the human aspect of work and what makes teams effective and what leadership, how that influences teams. So I decided to study organizational psychology. I'm one of the co-founders of The Liberators, which I started with Barry Overeem together, and also of Colominity, which is the platform that we built, or that I'm building as a developer, to help teams improve based on scientific insights. And one of those insights comes from the agile mindset research that I'm doing with Karen. And I'm also collaborating with other researchers like Daniel Russo from the University of Aalborg. And hopefully we can cover some of this research in this episode, because like you said in the introduction, there are a lot of opinions in our field, which is fine. I mean, opinions are great, debates are great, but I think it's also important to look at the scientific evidence and to help to use that evidence to make teams and organizations more effective. That is my mission, that's Karen's mission, and that's the mission we have with Colominity.
Awesome. Your research has a certain topic, which is team effectiveness. And one perspective to look at it is through the lens of an agile mindset. What are you researching on? Those are many buzzwords going on here.
Oh, that is really a good question. And that is the question we had in the beginning as well. We realized that when we were asking, especially for failing stories from agile projects and initiatives, and then the people often say something like, oh, well, the people do not have the right agile mindset. And well, that is a situation where for me as a business psychologist, I was thinking, I think this agile mindset doesn't exist. Because I observed two things. First, the agile mindset occurs a lot in our exchanges when there are failure stories. So it's always the reason why things didn't work out. And the second is the agile mindset always likes others and never myself. And that is a typical indicators for, we call it's a fundamental attribution error. So it's just a cognitive shortcut we often do to explain why things happening. But it's maybe not helpful in the situation to blame the mindset of other people in this situation. So I was thinking, okay, let's find out what this agile mindset is. Is there something like a common understanding? Mm-hmm. And actually, I had to change my mind more quickly than I expected to. And we started to do interviews and workshops. And we realized that there are 4 dimensions of the agile mindset that almost all of our interview partners mentioned. And the first is a positive attitude towards learning spirit. And that is a dimension when people have a high extent here, they are very open to new experiences. They love to look into new situations, maybe not knowing what will happen here, and looking for things over their own working context. And the second dimension is a positive attitude towards collaborative exchange. And that is something that we openly share where we are at the moment, not only what is working very well, as well what is stumbling at the moment, where do I maybe need help? And that creates something like a transparency channel so that others can help me doing my work more successfully, and together we can solve even bigger challenges than I can do alone. The third dimension is a positive attitude towards customer co-creation. So it's having the value for our customers in our mind and let them participate even in an early step of our development of our product or our services. And the fourth one is an attitude towards empowered self-guidance. So love to organize yourself, having the freedom to decide how do we want to achieve a goal, and love to use this one. And that 4 dimensions create the agile mindset.
It's really interesting because things that you describe are very much on a personal level. When I work with organizations and I think, okay, what really drives agility, what makes them more adaptive, what makes them speed up, it's not so much dependent on a single person. I very much look at how the interconnectedness is, right? So thinking that something like agile could be a mindset thing in itself, to me, when I first went through it, but also during my past 10 years career working in the field, was very much this does not exist. This does not do anything on a business level. This is some personal thing for individuals, right? So I pushed it into that and said, okay, when I want to help companies, I don't care about this agile mindset, because it's on a personal level, and I'm going to fix things on an organizational level.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is that Karen already mentioned this, right? So she changed her mind. So I think, Karen, you mentioned that you started the research being a bit skeptical about this, there being this thing called agile mindset. I had the same thing. But at the same time, as psychologists, we know that behavior is always shaped by our beliefs. And in part, of course, also by the environment, but beliefs are very important. And in the work that I've done with teams, together with Barry from the Liberators, is that you can, when you go into an organization and they say they're doing something called agile, which is a buzzword, I fully agree with that. But if they do something with agile, you can sort of sense if they're getting it or not, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the way these things are practiced is very structural. So they implement a framework and they change a few roles and that's it.
You look at their meetings and their reports and their...
Yeah, but that's not where... You can sort of sense some organizations get it and some don't. And I think the agile mindset taps into that difference because it shows us that there is a set of beliefs that has to be behind all that. And that is what Karen, I think, did really well in her research. And the thing that we're doing together is to actually see, is there a team level agile mindset? So what we talked about just now is on a personal level. Do you have, is there an agile mindset there? But can you also look at it at the team level and say, okay, this team understands what the whole point is of agile in the sense of working with your customers, continuous learning, being autonomous and making your own decisions, and so on. And that's what we're doing right now. And that's super interesting.
Were you also able to see whether team structures, individuals, or even companies that call themselves agile or have something that we would call an agile mindset actually produce better work or happier people, or actually have an impact on the way they're working and the outcome.
Karen, you want to take this one first?
Yes, we can do that. Yes, actually, we see that when people are having a higher extent of the agile mindset, that they feel more satisfied with their work. And that is not surprising, right? If we have a mindset that supports us dealing with complex situations and we are working in a complex environment, then that suits very well. So that is not surprisingly.
Can I jump in quickly? When you say a complex environment and in complex situation, can you give us an example on what that actually is? Because we hear it a lot, but we get so little explanation on it.
Yes, for sure. Well, normally I love to work here to explain it with the Cynefin framework from Dave Snowden. So it's more don't know what our way will be. So we have to find out what is our right way to find the right product for our customers, and not knowing what is cause and effect in the beginning, and we will find it through learning. Mm-hmm. And software development is a really typical example for that. And if we have an agile mindset in software development, often that is very helpful for us, so that we are more job satisfied in this situation. And we realize that there are a lot of constructs on these well-being level, like they feel more motivation, for example. They feel more committed and they feel less emotionally exhausted during their work. But we see as well that there's a good connection through performance levels, for example, to team effectiveness with team morale as well, and as well team subjective performance measures as well. Mm-hmm. So it's on the emotional part, very helpful, and on the other side at the performance part as well.
Were you able to see a connection to like delivery speed or development speed as well? Because that is something that a lot of people ask when they say they want to be agile, and I try to peel away that layer. It always ends up, or often it ends up at, well, we want to get faster.
Yes, we do. And this is also one of the hypotheses that we have in our research, right? That we want to investigate based on actual data if that connection is there and how strong it is. So the connection to responsiveness, that is one that we're testing. Karen has already done research on this on the individual level, but on the team level, it's still an open question. But we hypothesize it will be, because there is a lot of indirect evidence already for this. What we can see clearly is that teams that have a strong agile mindset have more satisfied customers, have a higher team morale, and perform better. This is already something that's visible from the data that we've collected so far. So that's not an opinion, that's something we can actually see in the data. And one of the things we're doing right now is to build up a larger data set so we can make stronger conclusions based on our research. Because right now it's
at the moment.
It's 133 participants. 133 participants. It's about 50 teams, which is okay, but we'd like it to be much bigger than that. Other research we've done in the past was with samples of 1,000, 2,000 teams. That's something that we're going for.
I'm pretty sure we can try to get a link to
for
everyone
sure. Yeah,
listening to participate in the show.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe just to already mention that is if people listening would like to contribute to the research, you can do it for free. There's a survey that you can fill in with your team, and when you do, you get detailed feedback from us based on your results, and you get it immediately. And you can also invite your team members, you can invite your stakeholders, you can even invite people around the team who are supporting the team, like managers and coaches, to also fill in the survey and help us build a data set. But it also gives you more actionable feedback based on the data that you've provided for your team. So it's really helping you, and it's helping us, and ultimately helping us as a community, I think, in expanding our knowledge of what makes teams more effective.
We covered what an agile mindset is. We covered how useful it is. But is it something that can be made? Is it something that can be shaped? Or who's in charge on creating it? Like people listening to this episode and probably go like, okay, sounds good. Where do I buy it? Is there a subscription? Can I download
Yes,
an
there's
app?
a subscription. Yeah.
Is it something that Elon Musk will inject in your brain? Do you need to be chipped?
Right. I need a recipe for you here. Yes, we can. Well, let's start in the beginning. When we have a look in research, then the agile mindset is an attitude or belief. And we can change our attitudes, but for example, one of our researchers said, well, attitudes are more or less stable. So, we know nothing with this sentence, but that makes it a little bit tricky. So we can have attitudes that are very stable. We call it manifested over a long time. So when you learn something for a long time with hard consequences, for example, don't talk about failures, because if you start talking about failures, then you will lose your job and don't know. And you learn this over a long time. Then this attitude is very manifested, so it's very stable. So if you start telling this person, let's talk about failures, then this person will not change his or her mind. And that's pretty clear. But the agile mindset can have some very dynamic parts as well. So if our attitude is not that manifested, for example, sometimes we change our mind during one meeting because we learned something in a meeting that made us think twice and changed our mind. And the tricky part is we don't know before. So we have to build conditions, a good surrounding where people can make good experiences behaving with these agile mindset. And during this process, they will change their mind on their own. So we cannot change the mind of other person. For example, if I say, well, Benjamin, I think, you don't have the right mindset, but I have here a nice workshop and a nice training for you. And we now coached your leader as well. And now everything will getting better. Do you feel motivated?
I feel mindseted.
Yes.
And maybe a little bit manipulated.
It's actually funny that the word mindset sort of suggests that it's sort of forced on your mindset.
Yeah. It has the word set in it, right? It's like a setting that you could switch on and off.
Yeah, and actually a good example that I can give of this that also make it very practical, because I've been a software engineer for most of my life, but I worked with a team for a long time, and we wanted to work more closely with customers. And that's also an agile mindset, right? Customer co-creation. So that's the belief that it's useful and valuable to collaborate closely with real customers. But the team I was in, the developers were actually scared of talking to customers, or some of them were. And one of the reasons was that the customers in their mind were always angry. They were always like, we actually had sessions where one of the customers was actually red-faced angry because something went wrong. But that was actually the reason for them not to want to collaborate too closely with customers. So they didn't believe it was valuable. But after a while, we actually decided to move the whole team to the customer site and start working closely with the customer on their own location. So those developers that were initially very skeptical about it started seeing that it was actually very valuable, and that the particular customer who was red-faced in one meeting was actually just very passionate about the product and was really trying to get something across to the developers, and was failing to get it across. But because the developers were suddenly, including me, were suddenly more interacting with him, it became easier to understand each other and see the value of working with customers. And from then on, the collaboration was much easier. But it takes time, and it also takes, you have to see that it works, right? That it actually pays off. Just telling people, go work with your customers, figure it out, that's a really bad way to create an agile mindset. That will backfire.
Yeah, you need to do good experiences to change your mind. And we can create a little bit these good situations where there's a possibility to do these good experiences.
And when you say we, you mean we as leaders leading teams, or?
Well, actually, almost everybody. So everyone can create good conditions for agile mindset development of other people, and as well for ourselves. Because, if we realize, I wish that maybe Christiaan has a better agile mindset, then maybe that is a good situation to start with myself. Because when I work on my agile mindset, Christiaan can maybe observe how I do it. And he can make experiences by watching me working on my agile mindset. But I have to talk about that so that Christiaan can really observe it. But leaders often have a very high impact to create these conditions. So often for them, it's easier. And we can do that by, for example, creating situations where we can get new knowledge. For example, listen to a podcast, for example, getting new insights about something, visiting new people, go to a conference, all these trainings and coachings, for example, that are situations where we can maybe get new knowledge and have an open mind for the things that are coming up. The second part is creating a good work design. So do we have something like structures in our organization that helps us to build an agile mindset? Like, do we have something like retrospectives, for example? Do we have the possibility to decide on our own how we want to achieve a goal? So is there a sense of autonomy? And there are a lot more structures that can help. Mm-hmm. And the third is the way leaders behave and how leaders support their employees.
I'm thinking about how leaders start to get the rock rolling is by often introducing new roles, new process, setting up a bunch of meetings, adapting to a new language, a new style of running things. Like, let's not do this in a spreadsheet. Let's jump on a Miro board. Let's not use Excel. Let's use Jira, and they introduce a new tool. Do those artifacts and meetings and language, do they actually work when it comes to adopting such a mindset in order to gain those benefits that we mentioned at the beginning?
That's a really good question.
Because that's what people do, right? That's what people jump to in the very first step.
Yeah.
But the question is, if that's not sufficient, you most likely build upon a false fundament, right?
Yeah, it's my unscientific opinion about, so let's be clear about that, is that it's more theater than that it's actually changing anything. I think if you're in a leadership position, the best thing you can do is set the example. And that always is that sounds very vague, but one thing you could do is whenever something needs to happen, always explain why it's valuable. Why is it important as this thing happens to the customers, to the stakeholders, to the people in the company? Because that's something we can also see in our research. If management focuses on creating value focus in teams, meaning that they explain why the work is valuable, it becomes easier for teams to adopt an agile mindset and become more effective. But it's also about psychological safety. That's also a factor that we see contributes a lot to agile mindset and the team effectiveness. And leaders can help create environments where people can feel safe saying things to each other. And let me be clear, psychological safety is one of the most misunderstood concepts in our domain, because people think it's a conflict-free zone. But the whole point of psychological safety is that you can have conflict and heated debates, but that you know that after the debate, you're still okay with each other. And that's something that's important also in teams and organizations, in every relationship, I would say, that you have. So those are just some ways in which leadership can contribute to agile mindset.
I think when addressing your question with is a new language and new tools and the new theater, is that helpful or not? And I think it's not. It's helping them, but it's just a little bit, because to creating a theater, to creating a new stage sometimes helps us to be open or realizing, okay, something is happening here. We have some new visual effects that we see here. So that maybe gives us a little bit an impulse to start in a new direction. But the impact of that is, not that big, right? Because if it's nothing inside, the new structures are not lived, then we stopped by it is a nice theater evening, and then all the effects are gone. So I think it's not And that is not an evidence-based opinion. Well, it's not an evidence-based sentence, it's more my opinion. Building these structures and creating this new language can be a part of building a new environment, but we should not stop only doing that.
I wonder, you must be stumbling upon a bunch of things while doing your research. Was there anything like really surprising? I mean, at the beginning, Karen, you already mentioned that you went in with a certain mindset to sort of hit on that box again, and then something's changed. What surprising findings did you stumble upon while doing your research?
Besides, okay, there's really something like a common understanding between all my participants. Besides that, it was, we realized, and okay, when there's really something like a common understanding, but the people do so crazy things with these agile mindset buzzword in companies sometimes, like people sometimes really feel manipulated, and now you got a new mindset in these 2 days workshops. And so we said we need to share more knowledge about it. And by only giving teams the opportunity to measure something like the team mindset and start talking with the people, they feel so much more safe to talk about it, because they really there's something like a common base, something like a common understanding. So, okay, that is what we mean with the agile mindset. Okay, pretty cool. And then not doing this finger pointing like, oh, well, who has not the right mindset for our team? It's more when I measure it with teams, then I often measure how relevant is the agile mindset for your work. How much do you like that? Is it so the attitude part? And third, how often do you behave like this? Mm-hmm. And then normally we see something like, okay, we as a team think it's highly relevant. We love to do that, but actually we don't do it in real work. And then I often don't have to say a lot. So the people start talking about that. And then there's one point where some of the team says, okay, that's crazy. It's really relevant. We like to do it, but we don't do it. What's going on here? What do we need to do? And then they really find own solutions, how to work on their agile team mindset. And that is what we want to promote in this project with Community, that the teams start having meaningful conversations about the agile mindset to bring away these bitter taste and these buzzword feeling around agile mindset, having evidence-based, no gut feeling situations where people can really talk about it, and during that improving their own work environment.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it? By dissecting what something like the agile mindset is or could be, and really boiling it down to actionable things, to tangible things, you more or less kill the agile mindset by doing this, because people wouldn't have to refer to it as a mindset anymore, or to agile, which is also a buzzword, like you mentioned, Christian. But they would actually pinpoint to something very tangible in the end. So it's really interesting, because at the beginning of this episode, I was like, well, this agile mindset very much sounds like a soft and squishy thing. Why do research on a soft and squishy thing on one end? But then while we progress through this episode, I kind of think that, well, if you examine it, you could actually ditch the buzzword and go a little bit beyond the agile mindset and make it more tangible and actually actionable as well.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. I think Karen and I have also talked about, and this is also some feedback we got from people, is that the use of the term agile and agile mindset is off-putting sometimes, because it triggers a buzzword aversion that a lot of people have, which I understand. But you could also see it as a learning mindset. It's just a mindset which makes you open to learning new things, to experimenting, to getting feedback from the people you do it with and you do it for. Ultimately, that's what it's about. And like you said, it sometimes feels like a soft and squishy thing. But as organizational psychologists, or as psychologists, Karen and I both know that whether we like it or not, our behavior is influenced by squishy, fake things, right? Like beliefs and attitudes and the culture that we work in and the norms that we have as a team and how safe we feel. And unfortunately, that's been my surprise so far, is that we've learned that teams really find it difficult to talk about these things because people, especially in the agile domain, are very used to frameworks and roles and artifacts and all these structural things. But talking about human processes and the dynamics in teams and between teams, that's something they're not familiar with. And even though we try to make it simple in Colominity by presenting this in an easy way, it's still very new and complicated to them. That's been a big surprise to me, honestly.
Looking a little bit ahead, like how long will your research take you? Like, are we looking into the next 3 years, the next 4 years, 5 years, the next 2 months?
Well, research never ends.
Yeah. Good research creates more questions.
Research never ends, but budget ends.
Is this the moment where we have to admit we do it for free, right?
Oh, crap. Oh, crap.
So it's more like time will end, or at least.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
There's no more time.
I was about to ask, like, depending on how long you would do your research, what would you see on the horizon? Like, what are you aiming at? What are you expecting to come out of the research once you progress a little further beyond the horizon?
Yeah, I think ultimately, and Karen, just add to what I'm missing, but I think the plan right now is to focus on collecting more data so that we can do a more coherent, robust second validation, because what we've been talking about so far is the first one. We hope to eventually end with 5 to 1,000 teams, then write a scientific paper where we summarize the results, we get it through a peer review process, which means that other academics are going to anonymously review it and give criticism, which is a really cool process, by the way, for those who've never seen it. You get pages of criticism back, like from 3 different people. It's really useful. They're all trying to help you make it better.
And you don't even have to put it on Reddit.
No. That would be the easy way. But the quality of the feedback is really good, is my experience so far.
And normally you get more pages of feedback than your paper actually is long.
Yeah. And then, but that will probably take... That process of getting it published will probably take 1 or 2 years from now. Yeah. And based on that, we'll do more research. And good research always results in more questions than you had initially. Yeah. And then we'll see where the data takes us. What do you think, Aaron?
What the data will tell us and where are the next steps we need to work on. But there are so many open questions I still have at the moment. And so many things that we can learn. For example, is everyone in an agile team need a high extent of the agile mindset? Or is it okay if we have, maybe 1 or 2, 3, 5 people in our team who don't have a high agile mindset, but the other teammates can maybe help them to promote it a little bit? Or is it the other way around, so that the other people maybe getting then a lower level of agile mindset?
Yeah. And is there a threshold that you have to cross?
As well, Well, we don't know yet. So it's very interesting to have a look at the data here. And for that reason, we really need more data to get them a really robust and valid model that we can calculate in several areas and several issues. And we can have a look at how is it in different cultures, for example. In Asian countries, for example, where we have a even higher, I need a word, Christian. Power distance? Yeah. Thanks. Yes. So we are maybe a little bit shy around our leaders and don't want to say critical things to them. How is the agile mindset there? Is it the same construct, or is there something else that makes us successful here?
Or especially in countries where companies would outsource to, where they have to collaborate. Yes. Like a bunch of companies here in Germany, at least, when you look at the big car companies, they would outsource towards India. And that's a very different culture, right? And at a certain point, they would put people from both cultures into a single team and direct them to work agile. Yeah, from now on, right?
Be open and exchange transparently and so on. And that is really a challenge. So, and what can we do there? But as well in different branches and different sectors, how is it there? Is it a different over the time? What are special treatments we can do that have the highest impact for special teams, for example. So there's still so many things to learn that we
like
can.
True scientists, right?
Yes.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
More
then I guess
data.
it's a good time to open up the show notes and click on the link and maybe continue the conversation on LinkedIn. Share the link to everyone. Let's hope we get a bunch of people participating so we can get more data about this. And what is a good way to reach you guys? If people want to stay in touch with your research, if people want to know how you're progressing and get to know your findings, what are good ways to reach out?
The best way, I think, is to go to colominity.com. We have a research team there, which Karen is also a part of and I am a part of, but also Daniel that I mentioned before. Our contact details are on there as well, and we publish the research that we're doing together there. Karen also has her own profile on LinkedIn. I have my own profile on LinkedIn. So you can also follow us, of course, to get more specifically things that we do, get an overview of that. But the colominity.com/research page at least gives an overview of the research that we're doing together.
Colominity, hard word, but easy to click in the show notes because I will link it out.
Yeah. We didn't come up with the easiest name to pronounce, but I have to admit.
Yeah. There is a good saying that I always that I use way too often, which is like, we didn't do it because it is easy. We did it because we thought it would be easy.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Thank both of you so much for joining on to this episode. It was really interesting listening to you, and would love to do a second episode once you progress with your research and you have more findings to share.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
Hopefully we can do that.
For sure.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for all your interesting questions.
Of course. All right. See you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for making it to the very end of today's episode. Thanks for sticking around. Honestly, I really appreciate it. If you like this episode, make sure to follow Karen and Christiaan on their journey researching the topic of team effectiveness and the agile mindset. Also, it would be really cool if you could take part in this research by clicking the link in the show notes and filling out their survey. And if you're really, really nice, make sure to share the link and share their posts so we can gather more data and maybe altogether can overcome this buzzwordiness and soft topics that most of the people are talking about on LinkedIn. All right, that's it for this week. Have a great one. See you very, very soon. Bye.